When you look at the notes taking tutorials, you see how people make complicated tutorials and put bunch of stuff in. But I wonder if they are actually using it or just hoarding stuff. It is necessary if you are writing books or doing research papers, but for normal life, I think it's just a waste of time, especially those Notion tutorials. You want your time to be used on taking notes and not wasting it on making shiny pages. I use Obsidian because it's simple and notes are completely in my control. Plus, it's portable, meaning you can download it for every major operating system and you can add notes in any text editor on any computer. And although it can be used for so much things, just use it for what you actually need. This will be just a simple tutorial how to get you started with Obsidian. How you want to organize your notes and bunch of other features I won't cover because every person has different needs and way they like their stuff arranged. To get Obsidian, just go to their download page and download it for whichever OS you are using. I'm on Linux, so I will download the app image. And then I just open it with App Image Launcher that will take care of all that I need. And this is the screen you get when you first start Obsidian. Here it asks you if you want to create a new vault, if you want to open an existing one, or open a vault from Obsidian Sync. Obsidian Sync is basically their cloud storage that costs $4 or something like that, and I think it's overpriced for what it's offering. If you don't have an existing vault, you can start with creating a new one. It will ask you for a vault name and the location. I will just put mine in documents for simplicity. And then you click on create button. Depending on the theme that you have for your operating system, this will be dark or light. This is the node that it creates in your vault. You can just delete it. This is the screen that you write your notes in, and this is the file browser. If you open your file browser, you can see it's just a folder, and the welcome note is just a simple text file with some markdown syntax in it. If you look at the hidden files, you will see that it created .obsidian folder, and here it will store all your settings, plugins, and themes. When recording, I forgot to mention one thing about this Obsidian folder. So as I said, all your settings, plugins, and themes are stored here. However, if you create a new vault, that vault will have the default settings and none of the plugins or themes that you installed. So what you can do is copy .obsidian folder that you already set up, delete this one, and paste the previous one. Now when you open your new vault, you will have all your settings, plugins, and themes just like in the one that you set up previously. And you can do that with every vault that you create. So first thing I'm gonna do is delete this welcome note because I don't need it. So how do you start creating notes? Well, you can click here, create new note, or just press Ctrl N, or you can go on this button and create new note. And here it asks you for the name of the note. And this is actually the name of the file and not the title of your note. If you look at your file browser, you can see that it created ututorial.md file. And this is this and this. I don't like the name of the file to be here, and so I always remove it, and you can do that with going to settings, appearance, and under interface, show inline title, and I remove it. and that way it is less confusing for me. You can write in here just with the plain text. So I created here a little note. It has the title, the text, and the link to the page from where I got the text. As you can see, words are underlined with red lines that spell checker can't find, and I usually turn off the spell checker in Obsidian. To do that, go to the settings, editor, and spell check, and the lines are gone. So this can be your note. You don't have to do anything more than that, and you can have a bunch of notes here and you can search through them. Here's the search. You type in the word that you want to find, and it will give you the list of all your notes, and then you just click on one and it will open it here. But you can make this a little more nicer and useful with markdown syntax. Markdown syntax is nothing else but putting some signs in front of the text, and then any editor that can read markdown system will make it to look like something else. For instance, I can put a hashtag in front of my title, and as you can see, the title will become bigger. If I want a subtitle, I put 2 hashtags and it will be a little smaller, but it's not visible. If I put, I think it goes to 6, yeah, level 6. So you can see the difference. Some syntax that you might want to use is also for a bold text. You put 2 stars at the beginning of the text and at the end of the text, and it will be bold. For instance, I can put this here, and it will make bold this whole section. If I want to put a text in italic, I just put $1 and the text will be italic. And the one that I might also use is strikeout. So you just put 2 tildes in front and then at the back. Since this size is just a simple file browser, you might want to organize your file in multiple folders just so you don't have here one big list of files. And to create a folder, you just click on this button and let me just create a few folders. Now that I've created multiple folders, I can just put my notes in those folders just to make it more nicer. For instance, I can just move this to YouTube tutorials. By default, if you click on this new note, it will create it in the default vault. But if you want to create a note in a specific folder, you just click on the folder and right click and new note. And I will make a note for how to make steak. And for instance, I found this page that shows me how to cook steak. Now that I copied my recipe from the page, I can also put a photo in it. To put a photo in my note, I just open file browser, choose the picture, and drag and drop it to the note. And now it saved the steak pic into the default vault. Yes, not in the cooking folder. The thing you can do, and what I usually do, is to create a folder called -media. And I put the dash so it is always on the top. And I want all my pictures to be saved in this folder. So to do that, you can go to the settings, file and links. And under default location for new attachments, you can see that now it's chosen vault folder. But you can choose that to be in a specific folder, which I will do. You can save it at the same folder as your note and in subfolder under current folder. But I like this option. So here you can just choose the folder that you want to save it, and it will automatically give you all the folders that you have in that vault. So I will just choose media. And if I delete the picture and put it now, you can see that it's put in the media folder. But as you can see, when I deleted the link, it didn't delete the actual picture, so I can just delete it from here. Anytime you put an attachment in your note, whether it's a picture or it's PDF file or whatever, it will put it in this media file. This is a very simple way how you can create your notes. Now let me just show you some other markdown syntax that I used. Let's say you are writing a tutorial with a bunch of commands, for instance like this. You can leave it like this, or you can put ticks at the beginning and at the end. And now you can see it will be shaded from the background. Let me just, I don't know if it is better visible on the white ground. I don't think so. Anyway, this is not only the nicer way to highlight your piece of code, but also sometimes when you write code, you might be using a syntax that Markdown will interpret like it's a Markdown system and not just something that you wanted to write as, for instance, plain text. And putting it between those two ticks will just keep it as a plain text. But what I like to do is put 3 ticks and then you press enter and then you write your code and end it with 3 ticks. And what this will do is create this copy button. When pressed, it copies it to your clipboard and then you can paste it wherever you want. So let me show you example of, for instance, the tutorial that I made for WordPress. This is the tutorial that I made for one of my previous video where I installed WordPress on Fedora 39. As you can see, it has some nice formatting. It has the copy button. What's great about it is when I open it in plain text editor, I can read all my notes. Yes, it has some markdown syntax, but I can read this perfectly fine without markdown editor that interprets markdown syntax. And if I look at my GitHub page, which also interprets markdown, when I upload a file, it's instantly formatted just the way I want it. And if I ever want to have my own homepage, I can also write it in Markdown and I don't have to do any additional work. Another thing that I like to do in Obsidian is to create an in folder. This is the folder that I will put all my new notes into. For instance, if I'm taking a note on my mobile phone, I'll just open the plain text editor and put it in this folder since I sync everything with MegaSync. And when I come to my computer, I will see all the new notes that I made and I won't need to search them through folders. Also, in Obsidian, you can go to Settings. Under File and Links, Default Location for New Notes, you can choose a folder for new notes. So when I just click Create New Note, it won't be created here in the default vault, but rather in the in folder. And then when I have time, I go to the in folder, I go through my notes, style them if necessary, and just put them to the right folder where I want them to be. Let me just go one more time through all the settings before I switch to plugins. Under Editor, I turn off the spell check, and you also have here if you want to show the line numbers and increase or decrease tab size. Under File and Links, I have this set to move to Obsidian trash folder. I turn on automatically update internal links. I change the default location for new notes and put it into folder. I use detect all file extensions. This is for when I put a file that is not markdown to be visible here in my file browser in Obsidian. I changed the default location for new attachments. And this is all I change just in the default Obsidian. Now I will show you which plugins and themes I actually use. Under appearance, you can see that you can install themes, and the only theme that I usually install is the minimal. You click on install and use. And the reason why I like it, because it has minimal theme settings under plugins. To install plugins, you go to community plugins, turn on community plugins. And to install a plugin, you can just click here on browse. The plugins that I use are minimal theme settings. You install it and enable it. And I will just first tell you what plugins I use, and later I will explain why. So the first is minimal theme settings, then style settings, then editing toolbar, then night, and paste URL into selection. After you installed all the plugins, you have to enable them. And you can see that settings for plugins will appear here. So if you go under minimal theme settings, you can see this, you can choose settings for light mode and dark mode. Basically, you choose when you have dark mode or light mode turned on, which theme you will use. And by default, minimal theme has already some nice color schemes installed. I always choose Capuchin, and the same for dark mode. And since my theme adapts to system, it's automatically dark. And another thing that I turn on is this setting to see some colors in headings. And you can adjust fonts here. You don't have to go to some CSS file in Obsidian if the theme doesn't have this in their settings. Then Night plugin is great because when you enable it, you can choose whether you have dark or light mode in a specific hour. As you can see, it automatically switched to day because it's between these 2 hours. So the way it works, you can choose between day and night. During the day, I like light themes because I cannot see anything on dark themes. And here you can choose your theme. The great thing about minimal theme is that it will automatically choose light or dark scheme depending on this setting. So I want my day to start at 7. And for the night theme, I will also choose minimal. And this is when I want Obsidian to switch to dark mode. Editing toolbar is exactly what it says. If you go to your node and you have to be in editing mode, it will create this toolbar with syntax for Markdown, so you don't have to remember everything. But what I like to do is to set it to auto hide, so I don't have it always shown just when I need it. When I installed a minimal theme, this part was set to auto hide, and that's why I use style settings. You type in tab title, and tab title visibility, you can turn this on to visible. And now it will always be visible. And paste URL into selection. I install it because I like it because I can just take the link, choose this word, press paste. And now this word is actually the link. And this is pretty much all I use from plugins, but that is what I need. Your needs might be different. And if you go to plugins, you can see that there is 1,648 plugins, and every single one is basically one feature that you can add to your Obsidian. It all depends what you need and what you want. Some examples are calendar, tasks, Kanban, whatever that is, advanced slides, mind map, day planner, checklists. You can export notes in multiple formats, integration with Zotero, another calendar, Excalibrain, tracker if you like statistics, notes in LaTeX, and even Copilot. And these are just few plugins. Like you saw before, there are thousands of them. And for the end, taking notes in Markdown is really great system for me, because if somehow happens that no program can interpret Markdown syntax, I can always use command line tools to search through them and read them. And that's all.